Alright then, lads, welcome back to Kosi's Arsenal podcast, and welcome back to episode 2 of the Super Arsenal podcast. We are going to be discussing a couple of things, but the biggest one is what is Arsenal's best 11? I've seen that question on a couple of websites and a couple of accounts, and then I thought to myself, this is what I wanted to do at the end of the window. I wanted to determine what would our 11 be. Obviously, I'm very disappointed because it's not what I expected. I thought I would have players like James Maddison. I thought I would have players like Emi Buendia. I just thought I'd have Emi Buendia in my best 11. I thought I'd have names like Tariq Lamptey, names like Max Aarons. Well, they are not our players anymore. They're not anymore, but they're not our players, and they cannot become our players until maybe in January or in the next summer. So what is Arsenal's best 11 to you? Should we be playing a back three with Takehiro Tomiyasu coming in and all the talk that he's a maestro in playing a back three? Should we playing a back three with probably Kian Tierney and I don't know, and maybe Ainsley or Chambers are playing as wing backs? I mean, should we be doing that? Should we play a 4-2-3-1? I'm going to dive into that on this podcast and probably make sense of it. However, there are also talks that Arsenal have contacted Antonio Conte. Now, this is not the rumor of the pre-agreement. This is not the rumor of Antonio Conte and blah blah blah. This is more like Arsenal have contacted Antonio Conte. They would want him to come in as their next manager, or as our next manager, if definitely, if Mikel Arteta gets the sack. Of course, that depends on the next 4 games. We'll dive into that. We'll try to read into the articles that have actually put out such that information. But I think there's a lot of pressure on Mikel Arteta, and when Edu was speaking, you could see, you could sense, you could feel that there was that kind of pressure on Mikel, that kind of pressure on Edu. They've got to turn things around, or else the pressure is just gonna mount bigger and bigger. We will speak about the Arsenal transfer update, Andre Onana, Lingard, and Alexander Isak. Now, with Alexander Isak, it's one that could be done next summer if Arsenal decide to. Obviously, we know Lacazette is leaving, so we'll discuss into the possibilities of those 3: Andre Onana, Hazel Lingard, and Alexander Isak, and a couple of other things on this podcast. So make sure you do smash a like on the video. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel as well if you feel like you love the content. Let's get our party started. So let's start off with what is Arsenal's best 11, because that is, for me, that's the biggest question Mikel Arteta has to answer, and maybe Arsenal fans, the question we have to answer. Are we better in a back 3? Are we better in a back 5? Are we better in a back 4? Which system should we be playing? If we play back 3, which I think we can play now with Ben White, Gabriel, and Tomiyasu already in the side, we could play a back 3 with Kian Tierney and then maybe Chambers, or you have Ainsley joining the midfield as wing backs. Then you could have maybe Partey and Xhaka in your pivot, and then the biggest problems come on deciding who plays for you up front. But for me, the biggest question is, can Mikel Arteta turn things around if he chooses his best 11? And so the question is, what is our best starting 11? In goal, I've gone with Bernd Leno. Now, I know many people do not agree with me on this one, and it's gonna be more like Kosi, this is a lot of favoritism and so on. We know you love Leno and things like that, but I still think Leno is a decent goalkeeper. We've seen that against Chelsea. We've seen that against Manchester City. Yes, we were hammered 5. We conceded 9 goals in 3 appearances in the Premier League. It is not courtesy of Leno. all goals we conceded. There are a couple of goals that I think he should have done better, like you know, like the first goal we conceded against Brentford. Which, you know, he should have done better than that. And he's really had a couple of problems as a player, but I think he is still our best goalkeeper. And if we can get our defensive eyes ready and well, I think Leno can be of a huge advantage rather than just throwing him away. Now, I really do not get the idea of why anyone would throw out Leno. Personally, I wouldn't throw him out. I think he's a good goalkeeper. I think he needs to do more than just being a goalkeeper. Playing out from the back, which Mikel Arteta wants, is one of the key things he has to learn. Because, you've got to change. The team now plays out from the back, and you're very poor at that. That's the only reason. That's why I think, by the way, Leno could lose his job in that Arsenal side. But I would still choose him, as my goalkeeper. Obviously, there are players that are always in the mix. Chiellini at left wing back. Now, we know Mikel has always loved playing a back three, and when he played a back three, he's always played Chiellini as part of the back three. But now with Takahiro Tomiyasu coming in, who we know is a very good, is very good at versatility, and he's also very good at playing as centre back and right back as well. And I just feel like maybe Arsenal could, maybe we could just play, Chiellini as a right wing back, and then play Gabriel Magalhaes, who comes in here as part of the back three. So we play Gabriel as part of the back three. We play White as part of the back three as well, and definitely we will have to play Takahiro. Hope I wrote it right. So right. So that's what I think. Play back three with Gabriel, White, and Takahiro Tomiyasu, especially if you're versing the big guys, the likes of Leicester, the likes of Liverpool. You could play back three, just not to be too much exposed. And I think that is what we did against Chelsea. We got exposed so much. We did it against Manchester City. We let them play, and we were exposed to the fullest. So I think it is something that could help. I don't know. I think I just feel like it is something that could definitely help out with Arsenal. Now in the midfield, there's so many big questions. Is it Partey and Xhaka, or is it Partey and Albert Sambi-Lokonga? Now, my thoughts on Albert Sambi-Lokonga. I still think he's one of our best. And I think he's going to be one of the best defensive midfielders in the league in the next 2 or 3 years. Because, he's just committed to that. He loves what he does, and he understands what being a DM is. And that's my problem with players like Xhaka. He claims he is a central midfielder, and literally offers nothing to back that. He offers nothing to back the fact that he's a good central midfielder. So Lokonga for me comes in, and obviously I'm playing him with Thomas Partey. Right? So Tierney, Partey, Lokonga, and then to complete the mix, that's a big question now. Who plays for us at right wing back? We could use Saka there. Yeah, we could use Saka there just to accommodate more numbers, in the midfield. Because we only have 3 attacking options. Now I don't know if this makes any sense to any of you, but I would go for Saka at right wing back. Obviously, he's playing off the midfield. He would be a wing back, but definitely playing in that midfield role. Right, so he'll have the liberty to go forward as much as he wants, to become a central striker, to become a right winger, to become a center forward, but coming from this area. I don't know what you think. I don't know what you think. But the reason that's why I would put Saki there is first and foremost the very, very first player. And the other thing is he would be operating as an inverted winger, something that I really love to see. Definitely something that I really love to see. Now, playing up front is a big question. Who plays for us up front? But there is no way I'm gonna drop. There's no way I'm gonna drop Pepe, so I will go for Nicola Pepe. I still believe in him. I still believe Nicola Pepe has a big job to do for Arsenal this season. Whether he started well or poorly, I still think Arsenal can get the best out of Nicola Pepe this season, and he should be part of our best 11. Many people have dropped Pepe. I cannot drop him. I don't think I will drop him. I still think, and I still stand by my opinion. I said Pepe is the key, and I'll go with Nicola Pepe. Right. So, of course, I think Aubameyang remains as our, only striker there, in the central forward role, and then it's either Smith Rowe or Odegaard. We can't play both of them. So I've played Odegaard. So this would be this should do it. Pepe. All right. Odegaard will be playing slightly around there. So you have Nicola Pepe here. And then basically you have Martin Odegaard behind Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang. That would be my best Arsenal 11. That would be my best Arsenal 11. I've dropped Martinelli, I've dropped Lacazette, and I've also dropped Smith Rowe. Right, I know that. But I think even if you switch to back four, it remains the same. It absolutely remains the same. Because if we switched back to a back four, this is what it would look like. Tierney comes back in defense. You have Gabriel. You have White. The defense still doesn't change. So you have Partey and Lokonga. Saka moves up front with the likes of Martin Odegaard and Aubameyang and Nicola Pepe. Still, I think Arsenal would be well if we played these 11 players. Why I choose Odegaard over Smith Rowe? I still think Smith Rowe has a lot to get on board. Definitely. The same with Gabriel Martinelli. I mean, you could argue with me, playing Aubameyang instead of Alexander Lacazette. It looks like of the two strikers, Lacazette is the more lit, is the more on fire than is the one on fire than Aubameyang. But let me know, what is your best Arsenal 11? What would be your best Arsenal 11? I would love to know from the in the comments below, and of course we'll get into that. We'll get into much of your comments later on. All right. Away from that, we will get into Antonio Conte. Now, a couple of stories have been written around this, and I still think there is something now. I'm starting to believe there is something between Arsenal and Antonio Conte. A couple of rumors are resurrecting the story, and a couple of rumors are actually burying the story. That is what I do not understand. That is what I do not understand. Another piece of story has actually come out today, stating that Arsenal have contacted Antonio Conte. So the article reads, and it is from Football 356 or 365 to be sure, from Football 365, and they're saying Arsenal have contacted Conte to replace Mikel Arteta. All right. And they're saying Arsenal have contacted Antonio Conte over replacing Mikel Arteta, with the Spaniard under pressure at the Emirates. The Gunners currently sit rock bottom of the Premier League, having lost all 3 of their opening games of the season. Arteta has been criticized as this side have failed to find the net despite spending more money than any other Premier League European side this summer. Conte is currently unemployed, having left Inter Milan this summer. He led the Nerazzurri to their first title in over a decade last term, but decided to leave the club as he was given no assurances that he would be able to improve his squad. Arteta has now spent 2 years as manager of Arsenal and delivered the FA Cup in the 2019-2020 season, but the last campaign resulted in their absence from the European competition for the first time in 25 years. Palmieri adds that despite the Gunners' contact, Conte is not interested in the role as he wants to manage a side playing in Champions League. Well said. Well said. Arsenal have apparently contacted Antonio Conte to replace Mikel Arteta, one, and Antonio Conte has turned down, is not interested in the job because we do not have Champions League. I think it's something that I spoke about on the last podcast. If I'm not forgetful, it's something that I spoke about on the last podcast, and I said we are good, we are attractive by history. Right now, if you want to appeal to a manager like Antonio Conte, you've got to do more than history. You've got to provide more than the historical basis of things. You've got to tell him that we are gonna give you, a budget of around 150 million just to get in 2 or 3 players just for your squad. You've got to tell him that we are in the Champions League. You've got to sell him a big idea. You've got to sell him, you've got to sell to him, a very big, project. I don't think Arsenal have a big project going on. When I say that we are not better than Aston Villa, and many Arsenal fans disagree with me, that is the number one fact that shows you that we are fallen as a fan base. We don't know. We are just deluded. We are just deluded. You just feel like Aston Villa is bigger than, is not bigger than Arsenal. Full stop. But logically, they have a better squad than we do. Even after losing Jack Grealish, their squad is balanced in terms of age, in terms of talent, in terms of character, in terms of everything. They're a better squad. Leadership and everything. If you look at their attack, they've got Oli Watkins somewhere. They've got Danny Ings somewhere. They're delivering. Their midfield, the likes of Joe McGinn, the introduction of Emi Buendia, they're delivering. The goalkeeper they have, they got him from Arsenal. And to show that they want to be bigger than us, they have started to come and they're like, we would like to buy players from Arsenal. And we are struggling. We are struggling at their bids. They are making 40 million bids for our academy youngsters. Players that have been promoted from the academy. They are making 40 million bids for Arsenal players. And that shows you Arsenal is buying players for 17 million and Villa is buying players, the likes of Emi Buendia, at 30 million. They are bidding 40 million for ESR. That shows you where Aston Villa is. So, one, have Arsenal really contacted Conte? I think we have. I think there could have been talks because in the first instance, it was reported that Conte intermediaries had actually approached Arsenal over a potential move, to take over the job. Conte intermediaries. Now, the latest says that Arsenal did contact Antonio Conte's camp, and the manager is sure he doesn't want to be anywhere close to the mess. He doesn't want to be anywhere close to the Arsenal mess. And definitely, look, this might sound crazy from a person that supports Arsenal like me, but the moment you drop this far, you've got to pay the consequences. What Arsenal are doing is that they're paying the consequences. We are facing the consequences of having a club that has drowned for the past past 2 decades. You're not in Europe. You're not anywhere in Europe, and you want a manager like Antonio Conte, whilst you don't even have a squad. That's it. I've already told you that Arsenal squad is a shadow squad. If we have done a complete overhaul to get rid of the players that were brought in under Arsene Wenger, we will need to do another complete squad overhaul to get rid of players that have been signed by Mikel Arteta and Edu. Trust me, if you get a serious manager like Conte, he's going to drive out Ben White. He's going to drive out the likes of Tomiyasu. He's going to drive them out. I'm telling you for facts. He's going to drive them out. So the poor recruitment that has been targeted towards a project that is anticipated to take over, to take off in the next 2 years, right? So if the project doesn't take off, what happens? What if these young lads do not get because they do not have the inspiration? So what if Project Young Arsenal doesn't take off? So if I'm Conte, I don't come anywhere close to this mess, and I expected it. I expect Conte to turn down the opportunity. Or, well, I don't know if it's an opportunity, but I think it would be. I told you, managing Arsenal right now would be the worst job you would ever give to a manager, including Mikel Arteta. We abuse him, we curse him, but we know he has done us a big favor to be here. It's a big favor. It's a big favor to be here. We like big managers. We like good managers, but would they be willing to work with us? Would they be willing to come to Arsenal? The reality be said, if I'm Conte, I don't come anywhere the mess. I don't come anywhere near that Arsenal mess. It's that deep. From the ownership, now it has accumulated the legitimacy of time. 20 years. It has accumulated that legitimacy, sponsored by time. Arsenal in the mud for 20 good years. Can Conte turn things around just like that? You've got to back him. Do they want to back Conte? I doubt they will want to back him. So I think it would be a lot of wastage of time to bring in Conte in October and then he goes in January. The better thing to do, of course, he's a decorated manager, and that's why anyone would love to get him in. But it doesn't make any sense for you to bring in a manager who is already parallel to your project, to the way you see, to the way you see things. No, I don't see how it makes sense. Getting a manager who is in line with what you're trying to build. You could go to the Netherlands and bring in any Netherlands, or probably Van Gaal, because Van Gaal loves, managing the kids. But getting in Conte wants to win. Conte is not interested in building Project Young Arsenal. Conte wants to win. Is Arsenal going to give him that? No. At the moment, he is a manager that is bigger than the club. We've got to agree to that. You've got to agree to that. Bigger than Arsenal Football Club. If you put the two on the table, he's bigger than Arsenal Football Club. Bigger than us. So why would he want to come to Arsenal? Probably if we could give him the incentives he wants. Arsenal not going to give him the incentives he wants. They're just too stingy. They want to spend 156 million on 6 players. The market has changed. The market has changed. And we've got to agree to that, and we've got to learn and live with that. So that's it. Antonio Conte was contacted, and he is not coming to Arsenal because the job was turned down. He turned down that opportunity. Thank you so much, Conte. We understand. We definitely do understand. Right. Let's move over to the Arsenal transfer show inside the podcast. Now, this is funny, but I'm doing episode number 4 of the Arsenal transfer show inside the Super Arsenal podcast. Sorry for that. So welcome to episode 4 of the Arsenal Transfer Show, where we're going to be discussing the latest around Arsenal news, especially in terms of transfers. Let's start off with Mohamed Elneny. A couple of stories have been written, but I just picked one or two. And the first one is Mohamed Elneny agreed terms with Galatasaray. It's been reported that Arsenal midfielder Mohamed Elneny has agreed personal terms with Galatasaray as he waits for both clubs to agree on a fee. All right. And we also know now, at the moment, that Arsenal have also rejected a bid from Galatasaray for Mohamed Elneny. Right. I think both ends make sense. Arsenal are not going to give Mohamed Elneny a new contract, and Elneny needs to find where he's going to play football, guaranteed football, because you don't want to put your career on the line. So he's agreed terms with Galatasaray. What I think though is what what Mo should do is he should wait until January and agree a deal to move to Galatasaray on a free. It's a big advantage. It's a very big advantage. It gives him the ability to sign on very high wages and to get a very big sign-on fee. I mean, as a player, he benefits, and he will definitely go to Galatasaray at the end of the season. But at the moment, Arsenal rejecting the bid makes sense. I've said it before. If Arsenal sell Mohamed Elneny right now on the deadline day on Turkey's transfer deadline day, it won't make sense. It will absolutely not make any sense for me. At the moment, especially in this at this moment where you have Xhaka suspended, where you have Partey in and out, who is left? You have Elneny and Lokonga. Those are the two players that you're left to play in the pivot. So if we just do some madness and let Mohamed Elneny go, screw you, Arsenal. I'm done. I'm done. And I'm not really backing Mohamed Elneny as one of the best players that I love or things like that. But I think he's okay. He's okay, especially in the way he handles the fact that he's not getting much game time. Now, the talk that Mikel looks at him as a very essential part of his squad is nonsense. I don't buy into it. I just don't buy into it. I still think Arsenal are buying themselves some time until next summer when they can do one or two serious midfield signings. That's it. So Mohamed Elneny being essential in Mikel Arteta's in Mikel Arteta's plans is not true. Unless if Mikel tells us that whenever Partey gets injured, it's gonna be Mohamed Elneny. That would make sense. That would make a lot of sense. But apart from that, I don't think it really makes a lot of sense for me. I don't think it really makes a lot of sense for me. So Mohamed Elneny, should we let him go before January? No, definitely not. Get him out in January if you want to, and sign in a new midfielder. That's it. Away from that, no, definitely not. Okay. But still talking about January, Arsenal have the opportunity, still do have the opportunity to sign Andre Onana in January. Would you do that when? And what would be even more interesting is that Andre Onana would be a free agent in January. He refused to commit his future to Olympic Lyon. I mean, the fact that he's West African, I thought he would go to. It would be easier for him to go to France because the connection between West Africa and France, especially in terms of football. I thought it would be easy for him to go to France and probably try to carve a career out of the French League One, probably 1 or 2 or 3 years, then come back in the Premier League or challenge probably on a bigger stage. But he refused to do that. Inter Milan are looking at him as a potential long-term substitute to Samil Handanovic. Arsenal are also looking at him. If Leno leaves, because Inter are saying if we do not get Andre, we will go for Leno. Obviously, we know Leno wants to leave. He's very open to the idea of challenging elsewhere. So if Leno leaves next summer, and then you have Andre Onana come in, would it make more sense? I think it's a deal that would make a lot of sense. So go in January. What we have to do is that we just have to go out in January and, you know, just tie him on a free contract. I mean, yeah, you know, bind him to a contract. That's it. That's what Arsenal have to do. Go out, you know, approach him in January, sign an agreement in principle that he will join the club in the summer. But the question now is, what do you do with Aaron Ramsdale? He's 23, and Andre Onana is 25. That's a difference of 2 years. If you sign in Andre Onana, that means Aaron Ramsdale is gonna be a backup goalkeeper all his life. I don't think he's gonna. I don't think it's gonna sit. It's gonna sit well with him, because as a young English goalkeeper, he's looking at Jordan Pickford and Dean Henderson, and he's like, well, I can break through here. I can break through. I can be England's number one. I can definitely be England's number one, and that's what he's thinking about, and that's what he wants to do. And the reason as why, and I told you this, I did explain this, the reason as why players like Ben White and Ramsdale and Maddison would want to sign for Arsenal, that's it. You're playing for a big club like Arsenal. If you're their number one, and probably you keep around 15 clean sheets in a season, 13 to 15 clean sheets in a season, you have high chances that you will be called for English national duty, and you could be England's number one, ahead of an Everton goalkeeper. Right. So that is what they want to do. Ramsdale joins Arsenal in order for him to be able to get regular call-ups, because you're not going to get regular call-ups at Sheffield. You will get regular call-ups at Arsenal. So if you sign Andre Onana next summer, that means we are committing the 2 goalkeepers to be battling it out, for probably 5 years. Can Ramsdale topple? Can he overthrow Andre Onana? And if Onana comes in and becomes this world-class goalkeeper, what happens with Aaron Ramsdale? Does he remain the 24 million, 28 million backup goalkeeper all his life? I don't think he would want to do that. So it's a little bit tricky, but I would do the Andre Onana signing in January, get him on a free, and just get him in the summer. As simple as that. So it will depend on what Arsenal want to do, but that one is very open. The other one I wanted to speak about is Alexander Isak. Now, Alexander Isak is, of course, he has had a very beautiful, international break with Sweden, scoring against Spain and doing all his magic and letting all his magic flow. We understand that Arsenal will be looking for a striker in the coming summer, and Alexander Isak is one of those players. With Alexander Lacazette leaving, you expect much more now from the likes of Alexander Isak. Much more rumors linked to the likes of Alexander Isak and a couple of others. My big question with Alexander Isak is, he's almost going to cost us around 75 mil quid. 75 mil. That is because what his current club have done is they have bought out the rights of Borussia Dortmund from the player's contract, so they literally own him. I think that is Real Sociedad. They 100% own him, and they have inserted a heavy release clause, which is reportedly close to around 80 to 90 million. So my question now is, if we go for Alexander Isak, he's very talented, by the way, very, very talented, and he would make a very good goal, a very good goal scorer in the Premier League, or probably for Arsenal. I don't know. If we go for Alexander Isak for 75 mil, would that change anything? Would that, would that correct our goal scoring form? Probably next season. Because for me, I'm looking at if I was to go for a striker, I would go for someone like, now this is odd, but I would go for someone like Mikel Antonio or Oli Watkins. Those are the kind of strikers I would go for. The likes of Danny Ings probably now. But Ings is 29, so it wouldn't make sense. The same thing with Raul Jimenez. The same thing with Mikel Antonio. If you could sign Mikel Antonio last summer, that would have made a lot of sense, because he still has around 2 to 3 years on the scene. So with Alexander Isak, I still have my questions. What are your thoughts? I'd love to get your thoughts on Alexander Isak. What are your thoughts on him as a player? If you know him, what are your thoughts? Is he a good striker? Would you risk 75 mil for Alexander Isak? Just a simple question for you guys, for you the lads. And then lastly is Hazel Lingard. I still remember when Arsenal was linked with Hazel Lingard, I was one of those people who just came out and said, no, Hazel Lingard, no. But I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. I think the more I've watched Jesse Lingard, he's a very strong Manchester United fan, so I doubt he would be open to the possibility of joining Arsenal. But I think we need someone as charismatic, energetic, positive as Jesse Lingard. Arsenal do. We definitely need someone who's like that. Someone who just adds amplifies the electricity, the the current in the squad. I think Odegaard is good in that area because he does a lot of freezing, in moments, so he could pick out a couple of passes and make a couple of assists. But my opinion still stands. I think Arsenal would better go for Jesse Lingard. I'm just changing my opinion. What are your thoughts on Jesse? What are your thoughts on Jesse? I think he's a good player, by the way. I was just watching him against, was it Andorra with England, and he's so direct. That's one of the things I've just realized about him, and I love and I just love love it. He's so direct. He's very, very, very direct as a player. If he gets the ball, he's either making a pass or going for goal. I think we lack those kinds of players. So Jesse Lingard, I was wrong. I was definitely wrong. I would have gone for Jesse Lingard. I would go for Jesse Lingard. Let me know what you think about Hazel Lingard. And that will be the end of our Arsenal Super Podcast. I'll speak to you very, very soon with the Arsenal predicted lineup and the Norwich preview as well.